All right. Hey, this is Dan with the Hemp Highway of Kentucky, bringing you another edition of Hemp Threads Season 2. And got a guest today that I've been trying to get for a while, Alice Moon of, I believe you run your own agency named after Alice Moon.
Yes, I actually also just joined an agency called TrailBlaze.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's fantastic. And while we will get to that, the main reason we're here today is because we wanted to talk a little bit about cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. I think I butchered that when I talked to Dr. Uma, so maybe I did better this time. And first of all, you tell us a little bit about your experience with this syndrome.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with CHS back in 2018, but I originally started having symptoms of it in 2016. So I spent 2 years really sick, just throwing up off and on. In the beginning, it happened like once a month. Then it started becoming like once a week. Then it started becoming more frequent. In 2018, I had a 14-day episode where I threw up all day, every day for 14 days nonstop. And so that was extremely severe. I was near death with that experience. So I quit using cannabis for 3 months. And at the time, a lot of people were saying that CHS was caused by pesticides. So I decided to introduce cannabis back in my life without pesticides. I knew it was organic, no pesticides used. And I got sick again. That time only my episode was 4 days long, so not nearly as severe, but still not pleasant. And then from there, I quit using THC and went to CBD. And I was able to use CBD for about 3 months until I had my worst episode yet, which was 16 days long. And I got an ulcer, a hernia, bacteria infection, and ultimately was hospitalized for 4 days.
Wow. That's, I'm first of all just totally floored because I can't imagine living through that, especially the second part where you had the reaction to CBD. And I'm assuming that it was the violence of the vomiting that caused like the hernia and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, that's just mind blowing to me. I mean, I'm probably like the 98% of the world that's blessed that doesn't have to deal with that. And I couldn't imagine not having cannabis in my life in some form. So, I lost Alice.
Okay, it froze on me there.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad you came back. It was really weird. So I was saying, my heart breaks for you. That sounds like it was horrible.
It was definitely horrific. And I was using cannabis as my medicine. I use it for anxiety and depression. So, to go through this whole experience and then no longer to be able to have my medicine as well was definitely very tragic for sure.
And then when you started talking about this, as we mentioned earlier, um, people have kind of been rude, to put it mildly, about the experience, which if you were medicating for anxiety and other reasons, probably really doesn't help your ability to vocalize this. So, one, thank you, but how does that feel and how do you work through it?
Yeah, so I get a lot of negative messages from people whenever I speak out about CHS. And, I like to remind people that I'm still an advocate for the cannabis plant. I believe in all of its medicinal benefits. And so I'm not an enemy here to the plant at all. I'm just talking about the potential negative side effects that can occur. But a lot of people get very upset with me talking about this. And what keeps me going is that I receive positive messages from people who are thanking me for speaking out about it. So every time I do an interview, I receive like 1 to 5 messages at least from somebody who says, "Thank you, you just saved my life." And that is what keeps me going, is because I'm helping people who don't realize that they have CHS. I'm helping them discover what is wrong with them, and they're able to stop using cannabis, and then they're getting better, and they're like, "Wow, my life has changed. Thank you so much." And that really is why I keep speaking out about it, because the impact that I have when I do speak out about it, the good outweighs the bad.
Absolutely. And that's awesome that you've actually had those experiences because, um, you know, it could change somebody's life just as much as somebody who needed it, discovering it and being like, wow, I don't have to take my Ativan or whatever the hell they were taking anymore. Being like, Oh, I now know why I'm violently ill. Thank you, Alice. I, don't have to have all these tests run now and all this other stuff. Um, you had mentioned that early on and that you had done a lot of your own research on yourself about the pesticides. And I've seen that in the thread a few times, people talking about neem oil and whatnot. And when I read about it, it didn't seem like that would be a root cause. And yeah, I could see having an allergy, but I didn't seem like a root cause for people. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about how you experimented with, finding something that you knew was going to be organic and yada, yada.
Well, I just talked to the farmers that I was sourcing my flour from. And so that's how I was able to figure it out. But there's plenty of people who have grown their own flour and haven't used neem oil, and they've still developed CHS. There's cases of CHS happening with synthetic cannabinoid use. And some people who have CHS have difficulties eating foods that have naturally occurring cannabinoids like black pepper. And so all those signs point to it's probably a cannabinoid issue.
Okay, and I think when I was talking to Dr. Uma, she was actually talking about some other things that were like, like a mitochondrial, an infection at the mitochondrial level, which is a cellular level, which sounds like it's kind of related to genetics to me, as opposed to like it's a person having a reaction to these things, and it's a legit thing, and that it's a rarity, and you know more about it. So if I get off the track on what you found out, please correct me.
No, you're right. I personally believe it's a genetic predisposition that people have, but there isn't enough research into it for us to say for sure if it is a genetic predisposition, if it is 100% cannabinoids or if it is a pesticide. But I mean, this is happening worldwide, so I really don't think that it's a pesticide issue. I think it comes down to some type of genetic predisposition that we all have, that something that's ingrained in us where we were going to develop this no matter what. It's just a matter of like when, not if. That's kind of where I view it. I surveyed 330 people who have CHS. And so I've collected a lot of data, and, it's all over the place with the length consumed, the amount consumed, the age range. Those things all vary across the board. The only commonality we all have is that we all use cannabis. And, I was hoping to try to find some type of answer of like, oh, this happens to people in their 30s more often than people in 50s. But no, it's all over the place, when people are all over the world as well.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, where have you gotten to speak about this before? Have you had, because my audience is kind of limited to, limited. I'm hoping you've had some experiences to take this to a wider platform. Where are some of the places you've had an opportunity to speak?
So I've spoken at the American Cannabis Nurses Association conference. I've spoken at CanMed, where Raphael Meshulam was the keynote speaker at that conference. And then I've spoken to the media. I've been in Business Insider, Forbes, Leafly, High Times, Washington Post did a huge story on me last summer. I feel like there's probably a few more outlets, but those are the most notable that I've done. And then plenty of podcasts as well. As many podcasts as I possibly can do, I've done.
Awesome. So, I think if I remember your background, and I spent a little while on your page, and I follow you. I think you said you've been in the cannabis industry for about 9 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just hit my 10-year anniversary actually, so I need to update my LinkedIn. It's now 10 years.
Congratulations. What do you see has been like the biggest change in the last 10 years from a public relations and marketing standpoint? What do you see going on?
Well, brands now can actually do PR. They can have a voice. Back when I started in this industry, brands didn't even want to have an Instagram account because it was so such a gray area that people didn't even want to have a name associated with the product they were selling. They wasn't branded. There weren't brands really 10 years ago. Like there was maybe a few, but really it was just sell the product, try to keep our name out of the media, because usually that's a bad thing if your name's in the media 10 years ago, so I think now what we've seen is brands can actually have a voice. They can find their voice, they can tell their story, they can be proud of where they come from, what they do, and it's really great.
Now I'm gonna because I kind of have a opinion about this. And do you think that celebrities getting into putting their name onto brands has helped break the stigma down at all, even if they were already known to be associated with cannabis, like a Willie Nelson or a Snoop Dogg? Did they help break barriers in that, or do you think that's just kind of them taking advantage of people?
It's a little tricky. I think ones that are like already stoner-esque that come into the game are kind of just like bringing some more awareness and popularity to cannabis. I'm not sure if they're like breaking a stigma because they've already like have that kind of name for themselves. I think it's a tricky situation as far as like, is there success in celebrity branding? That is hard to say. A lot of celebrity brands kind of fall flat. They don't really do that well because the celebrities aren't that in tune with the industry and they're kind of just slapping their name on a product. I think Seth Rogen, his product is doing really well in California. In Canada, it wasn't as hot, but in California, it's doing really well because he's sourcing really good product from THC Design and he's in touch with the community. And so his brand, I see that one going far.
Okay. I unfortunately live in a state where I was thinking about this recently, the way they've even done the hemp bill here, pretty much everything has to be processed. And originally it had to be, if you grew, you had to have an arrangement with a processor. I think that I'm talking to a guy yesterday and he said they changed that in the last couple of years. So a lot of times when you're talking about some of the things that get marketed and sold and the public relations to it, it's so far from my reality. I can't imagine doing what you're doing. How do you have a criteria for vetting potential clients and brands that you work with?
Yeah, so now that I just joined TrailBlaze, I'm actually not accepting new clients because I'm with TrailBlaze full time, and I'm going to be like shutting down my agency come in the next few weeks. But prior, my criteria was that they had to have some type of social impact to them, doing something to give back. And I think it's very important, whether it's helping repair the harm done from the war on drugs or some type of just social advocacy and giving back in some way or another. That part is like my number one of like what I look for in a brand that I work for. And it's got to be a winning company. Like I say winning doesn't have to be like financially successful, but I say like win as in it'll be a home run when it comes to PR. Like I know that they have a good story and I can tell their story. Some brands just don't really have much of a story. They're just some, newbies to cannabis who just got into the game, who don't really have any skin and don't really have any passion or background. And I'm not really into that. I think the passion is really important, and having some type of relationship with the plant, like whether it's like your mother uses it for chemo or something like that, I think is very important as well. Is like some type of relationship with the plant.
Nice. And I brought that up because you had actually steered one of your clients previously, Good Kind, to do a segment with me, which was really cool. We got to look at some of their products, and they were involved with bringing water to Native American tribes and reservations. And I think that the number that we talked about was like 80% of the people that live on Indian lands don't have access to clean drinking water in their house, which I thought I was a pretty aware guy and I was just floored by that. But so I kind of knew that you probably were looking at companies that had a bigger heart than just, how much can I make?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Good Kind. It's been a pleasure working with them for the last year. They do a lot of good for the industry and just like trying to give back to the Navajo Nation. So they're a great company.
So the new position you're taking on, tell us a little bit about that. Is it the same sort of role? Are you going to have the same ability to vet your potential clients?
Yeah, so I have no control over who our clients are. Unfortunately, that is nothing I have a say in. But TrailBlaze is founded by Lisa Wesser. She is the former head of communications for Budweiser. She started her cannabis and psychedelics agency about 3 years ago. And we represent Canopy, Cresco, Martha Stewart, a brand called Purewana, and a few other notable brands as well. So kind of yeah, I got a good client base there. And so my role there is kind of a hybrid role of doing PR. And then we're starting a new part to the agency, a new division, and it's going to be social media focused, and that's going to be the division that I'm heading up. So I'm going to be doing social media for some of our clients, and we're going to hopefully grow that division out. So that way we have a whole social media aspect to the PR agency.
You know, I don't think people appreciate how much work goes into that, because I try to manage my own social media, and I'm not the best at planning things. I tend to wing it. And I know that, you know, you can go in there and there's all these tools to do weeks of planning and stuff. So I think that I mean, I know a lot of companies take it very, very seriously. It's going to be a lot of work for you. You're going to end up having a pretty decent, I would think, pretty decent team under you to kind of get these things done.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm going to have a team of 2 to start. And then as we grow our client base, that will grow. So we haven't officially announced the position yet, but in the upcoming weeks, we'll be making, you know, a LinkedIn announcement, Instagram announcement, all that jazz.
Oh, nice. Okay. Do I have to like hold on to this for a little bit before I air it so that we don't, you know, bust the news?
No, you can totally, you got the scoop. You got the first to hear it.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to put you in jeopardy by letting out any secrets. So wow, that sounds like an interesting group of companies. I mean, there's certainly some players in there for sure.
Yeah, some big names that we work for.
So here's another question for you, and it's maybe a little bit off the beaten path, or off of what we would consider what your focus is. I kind of have a problem with companies and their strain names when they're really high, and their products when they're really highly derivative of mainstream products. Like, you know, the idea that there is a strain called Girl Scout cookie blows my mind, or Gorilla Glue, and that, you know, whether they won the lawsuit or not when they got sued for it, I don't understand. Have you encountered that type of mentality working in marketing and promotions, where people are just intent on being derivative instead of original? And what's your take on that?
Yeah, I will not work with a brand that is clearly, you know, infringing on a trademark. That is just not a direction I want to go. But I think strain names are all BS. It's just a lot of BS. You know, when I worked at the dispensary, we would have flower come in and the grower would say like, oh, it's XYZ. And we'd go, okay, we're calling it, you know, Skittles. And then all of a sudden we just had a new name for it. And we would just name things like there was no rhyme or reason to it. And so I think as far as the genetics go and stuff like that, like, really what the customer is going to get, it's like it matters about the terpene profile and the cannabinoid content, and the strain name. Like, there could be 3 different strains, all the same name, and they're completely different product. So I think strain names are kind of BS, and hopefully we start to gear towards like a different direction instead of going with strain names, especially like the whole trademark thing. You know, like I just said, Skittles, there is a brand called Skittles that is getting sued by what is it? I don't remember the parent company of Skittles.
I can't remember if it's Mars or Hershey or
Mars. I believe it's Mars. So yeah, Mars is coming after them. And so I think using anything that's like a Disney derivative name, like that's just stupid. You know, Vader OG, like using stuff like that, Skywalker. It's just asking for trouble.
I agree. It for me, it just screams of lack of creativity too. And that just, I mean, not that I could sit here and come up with a bazillion names to come up with stuff, but I also tend to agree with you that it's a little bit, it's gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. You know, it's all the, and you're right. I've had people send me people have sent me samples of their sour space candy. They look completely different. They taste different. It's so much goes into the care of it, I think, more than people want to, you know, raising it. How is it dried? How is it handled? Who was the buyer when they went to the farm? Did they know what the hell they were doing when they sourced it?
Yeah.
We're getting close to because I run this about 25 minutes. I wanted to know if there was anything you wanted to plug, any topics that were really important to you that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, so I'm circling back to CHS. I just want people to be aware of the symptoms. That way, if they have any of the symptoms, they can like take a cannabis break. So the symptoms, nausea, abdominal pain, and once you get into the hyperemetic phase, then vomiting. So if you wake up every morning and you feel really nauseous when you start your day, think about maybe it could be CHS. Maybe take a cannabis break for 3 months, see if that nausea goes away. And I recommend 3 months because it can take up to 3 months for THC to get out of your system. So it can really take a long time. So I recommend doing a 3-month break if you have any of the symptoms. And if your symptoms go away, then highly likely you have CHS. So I just want people to be aware of the symptoms, and so that way, you know, if they are feeling sick, that they can get better. And I built a website for easy learning, www.cannabinoid-hyperemesis.com. And so there's links to 20 plus research papers on there. There's a FAQ, there's patient stories. It's just a resource for anyone who wants to learn about CHS in a very easy to read manner.
That's awesome, and I'm glad you plugged the website so I can go look it up, and we'll do some cutaways on here so people can actually see some of the graphics from there. Such important information, because I look at it. I look at it as reverse reefer madness. You know, we went through this phase where, oh my God, it's gonna make your kids addicts, and everybody's gonna become promiscuous and break the law, when the only law they broke was smoking weed. To almost, it's this miracle, and if you say anything bad about it, you've been brainwashed by the government, you know. And so I think it's really important when somebody with your background, who's not coming at it from a cannabis is bad, you're like, it's just not for everybody. I think it's really important, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about that.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the platform to spread awareness about CHS.
You're very welcome, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk later on when you've got yourself settled into your position at TrailBlaze.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that, Alice. Thank you so much. Have a great, great day.
Thank you so much. This has been lovely.